Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to HeartMind Expressions Fab 4. My name is Alex Spielman. I am with Sue McClure.
Hey.
And Amari will be with us shortly. And so, Alex Boom, you got all four of us. The Fab Four are back together after a long, long time. But we are together. Good evening,
Yeah.
Sue.
Good evening. Good evening. And I would like to extend congratulations to my brother, Alex Bloom. He finally tied the knot with Vicky Bean. So now they are known officially as the Blooms.
Bloom. That is going to
Yeah.
take me a little bit of time to get used to.
I know. I actually changed it on my phone here. I put her name. It used to be Vicky Bean, so now I put it as Vicky Bloom. So that was fun to change that around on the contact list.
So, at least you don't have to worry about the initial changing. It's the same letter, so that's good.
Yeah, you know, I mean, as if they've already mammogrammed the towels, well, nothing has to change.
I'm back.
I think.
Hey, there you are. There you are. Hey, Maria, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. Wait, I got a little bit of an attack energetically, and so I logged off and reset my system. We tried to go online twice and got hit. I've been hit several times this week with directed energy weapons, the V2K kind or whatever that is. I don't even know how to call it. Ugh. But anyway.
Yeah, we've been, several of us has actually been hit when we went to Florida. Between Dr. Bloom and me and a couple of others have gotten something all up and down our legs. They basically look like very bad mosquito bites. And it was all up and down our legs and on our arms, and it just like mysteriously just showed up out of nowhere. And usually if you get bitten, you know, it shouldn't leave such a big scar, but it has.
Yeah, that's crazy. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, so we have been some sort of attacked. The wounds are finally healing, but you know, it just goes to show that there is stuff going on. We also have been attacked technology-wise as well, you know, allowing us to either log on or do Zooms and things like that. You know, there's a lot of nerves frayed, especially too.
Right. Yeah, it's been a while since they've done this, but I don't know. They seem to be getting desperate because there's things on both sides that are happening, but I'm really feeling positive on where we're headed. Because yeah, there's a shit show, but it always is the darkest right before the dawn.
Yep.
So we still have to have faith and just keep pushing forward and raising our vibrations, because we are all super soldiers if you think about it in one way or another.
Yeah.
Because what we are, those of us that have heart, soul, that think for ourselves, that really do what we can to raise our vibrations and show more love, it seems like we're bringing in like more abundance, more flow. Like the stars are just kind of at that set right now. We just got over I think it was Scorpio full moon. That one was hard for me because I'm Scorpio rising. Ophiuchus if you're doing the other chart. So a lot of energies are shifting. And
well, that shows you definitely are a warrior. You definitely are a warrior, Maria, because you got through that Scorpio. You're still here. You didn't shoot your leg off or anything, so.
It was rough. I mean, there's a lot of different lessons and different things, but I mean, I think we're all shedding layers and we're all doing energy work for our past lives, for our family, for whoever it is that wasn't able to finish something in their lifetime. It's like we're kind of doing that, helping them. I think, you know, because it's what is it that all of the wise people for centuries and millennia have said is that curses go for about 4 generations until someone basically wakes up.
Yeah.
And for instance, Mary Collins is a relative of mine generations ago, as well as Sarah Collins. There were one of the 5 blood families that I'm figuring out that we are related to. And there's a picture I found, I still don't know the name, but it's a spitting image to me about when I was in my 20s.
Wow.
And even the way I do my hair. And so I'm like, what? I've been finding stuff like that. But I think, you know, it's generations enough back. But a lot of us have these bloodlines. And even though, yeah, the the shit show that's been going on with the cabal, with other things that we can't unfortunately talk about right now because we've been censored. And that sucks. I don't consent. And I know you guys don't consent either, because that's violating basic human rights. We're doing no harm. We're doing our research. And we're seeing results. We're seeing what's happening. This stuff is in your face. Like tonight, Sue and Alex brought to the table some really interesting facts on actually population is declining right now. And I want to turn it over to you guys because the stuff that's been going on, like I said, that we can't talk about, it's affecting a lot of people. And I think a lot of people are waking up with recent movies and documentaries coming out because people are dying suddenly. Why?
What's going on?
We have some ideas why. Unfortunately, we can't talk here. There's other people that are, but guys, let's talk about population. What's going on?
Well, before we actually, I wanted to talk before we talk about this. Let's bring up what this really means. This is an attack, or this is a change on the core institution of humanity, which is the family. Right? We have society, and we have larger and smaller institutions, but at the core is family. And as you know, yesterday was Thanksgiving, which is a day where we all remember what we were thankful for this year and for all other years. So family and friends come together. Some people call it Thanksgiving, other people call it Friendsgiving, but together.
I keep trying to think of a way to call it, because by myself, I really don't celebrate holidays anymore, just because I've found the occult in them and a lot of sacrifice stuff that it's too dark. There's a lot of black magic that's still there. And so I just choose not to participate in that. But I still like to go, visit family and participate with family, because I think that's where the core is that we need to be focusing, is showing that love to family when we can. I know it's hard with my family. There's a lot of discord, unfortunately. A lot of it's because of religion, and I just can't do that. I can't do it anymore.
Well, there's still nothing wrong with being thankful. I mean, I personally am thankful. Yes. I'm absolutely thankful this year, and I kind of look back on my life and said, you know what? I'm actually grateful that I did not reincarnate into a turkey. So there's some things to be thankful for. So but we look back and we look at all the crazy mayhem that has happened this year and the last 2 years and all that. And, it's kind of a check and balance on ourselves. That some of these holidays, they do have dark magic, but it doesn't hurt for you to make it your own. And like put and then get rid of the dark magic out of it and put light magic, if you will, into it, as to put it.
White
yes.
What I've been thinking about as part of because I'm part Native American, I've got bloodlines in the Cherokee, the Seminole, Iroquois lines, and the Lakota. And very interesting, a lot of natives, and I deeply understand and am coming from a place of honor and dignity, because we've had a lot of our family and bloodlines murdered. And so Thanksgiving is actually a holiday of murder, because we were pillaged and our things were stolen, basically. So what I'm thinking for my own family is my gratitude that we're not being harmed like that we do have a voice. And we have so much power. I mean, look at how much good is in the world right now with the technology we have. I'm so grateful, just like you're saying, Britt, that. And anytime we can come together like this and make a difference.
Yeah, I mean, we consider it more of a harvest dinner, rather than just Thanksgiving. The garden and stuff. We were able to get some things out of the garden and stuff like that. But even people who have, farming and larger gardens that we do, it's good to have fresh fruits and vegetables and things like that, and be able to bring it to the table and share. And, you can always make everything your own tradition. And I actually think it's really beautiful when families do come together and they basically show off what they grew this year, and it becomes part of the a dinner get together. So I actually think that that's extremely full of light, in my opinion. You don't absolutely never have to call it Thanksgiving or anything, but I think we at least can call it a holiday or a day that we can get together where, because a lot of so much chaos that we have going on in our everyday lives, we kind of forget to call our family member, check on them, see how they're doing and things like that. And we just get so scatterbrained at what society throws at us. And so it's good to just take a day or two off and visit family and just ask, hey, how are you doing? What's been going on? Let's catch up, you know?
Yeah, I got a few family members that Spirit's been nudging me on, and so I kind of have a feeling I do need to talk with them. So, but it's good. It's good. It's been a while. That's also a Scorpio trait. Sorry, guys. We're not bad. We just get so busy and we're really deep and we're hermits.
Well, you know what? The power of family is very powerful, and that's one of the things that the bad guys don't like. They don't like this unity because of how powerful family can be. And here's an example. Alex Spielman and I were at a wedding, Dr. Bloom's wedding, and we all had an amazing time there. And Alex discovered when he went to the human residence that exactly the time when the party started till the time when it ended, apparently they blacked that out. Alex, do you want to talk about why they did that?
Wow.
Yeah, so
the power of family.
It was between the hours of 7 p.m. and 11 p.m., which was when we went. Okay, so we had the wedding, and it was a beautiful sunset wedding on the shores of the Gulf of Mexico.
Amazing. Yeah.
And we had the normal, festivities for the wedding. And then we went to the reception. There's normal stuff you do with the reception, first dances and speeches. But once we got out of the formal setting and we started to actually just have fun dancing and celebrating and merrymaking, that's when it hit. That's when it started to shut down. And that the day after, we were having a dinner, a last supper, if you will, for everybody who we were there. And while we were, waiting for food and we were talking, I was actually on my phone looking around on the internet, and a conversation came to energies. And I said, oh, it's been a while since we talked to the Schumann residents. So we popped on the Schumann residents website I have, which is an observatory that's, it's a Russian observatory that is in the Siberian region of Russia. And usually you have to incorporate it being 12 hours ahead of us, or ahead of me, Eastern Standard.
I was wondering what the time difference was. Thanks for clarifying that.
It's 12-hour time difference. So when they say it says 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., I mean, now 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. time? So it happened at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is 7 a.m. over there the next day.
Oh, nice. Okay, so it is. I just wanted to clarify for Eastern Time. Perfect.
Mm-hmm. Eastern Standard Time, not Eastern Daylight Time. Eastern, because we just changed that.
Right.
But yeah, for about 4 hours, the Schumann residence was gone. And I actually have a screenshot of that where it is completely gone. There is nothing there. And what's interesting is that if you look at it before and after, it didn't look like there was much activity. It seems pretty quiet.
Mm-hmm.
So why would it be? The only time it usually shuts down or is blocked out is when there's huge activity.
Oh, hasn't there been really big solar flares though lately too?
Yes, there has been, which is kind of interesting how that's kind of all worked out.
It seems like they kind of coincide.
It happened exactly. Yeah, it happened exactly the same time as we were partying.
I find it interesting. I find it interesting how many coincidences happen until you realize that there are no such thing as coincidences, just happy accidents.
Yeah, well, we say how many coincidences before you say it's impossible,
How many licks does it take to get to the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop? Oh, wait, wrong conversation. But yeah, it was just really interesting that we were noticing that, and we just, I don't think I saw. I don't think I've ever heard Bloom so excited. I mean, he sounded like a kid in a candy store. He'll probably be joining us later tonight.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't think it. Yeah, he was pretty excited.
That's awesome.
Because I sent it to Sue. She was sitting next to me, and she's like, "Oh, I should let him know." And so she gets in a call with him.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, he was so giddy.
Yeah.
So I sent it to him, and so it's just awesome.
Those two
It makes the event all the more special.
I love those days.
So that's thankful for that. Thankful for you guys.
I'm thankful for you. I love you guys.
Thank you.
Family. And you guys have gone through some really challenging times with me the past. Gosh, when did we meet? Was it like 2017, 2018-ish? I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to even remember how we met.
Yeah.
That's so funny. It just seems like we've just known each other forever.
Yeah.
Maybe we have.
I think so.
You're my baby bro, my big sis.
Which direction? I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Hey, you have a huge heart, girl.
Thank you. Which direction is that too? Thank you. Thank you.
You have such a big heart that we might need to do reconstructive surgery to deal with the chest cavity.
Oh gosh.
Oh wait, no, sorry, wrong thing. Anywho,
so, this is the power of family, the power of high vibration, and, the power of this union that we have with each other. And it's just one of the things they hate, light. They absolutely hate light. They love dark. And once there's light, it's like cockroaches. When you turn the light on, they scurry in the dark. So we gotta keep
arguing and fighting. Grouchy and
you gotta keep pumping. You gotta keep pumping light. Absolutely.
Speaking of
gratitude
light,
is such a good way to do it. What was that, Alex?
Oh no! Finish your thought. I was going to change topics, but
yeah.
Oh no, you're fine. Yeah, that's what I was just adding with what she said on changing your light. Just gratitude is such a good way to do that.
Yep.
I was going to what I was going to say is, speaking of like gratification and seeing things going in the right direction, big news in the Twitter world.
Yeah.
Elon has decided to unban every Twitter user that's ever been banned, so long as they didn't break a law.
That's so cool.
So every single person that has been banned. So that means all the people that were banned during the great ban of 2020 will be reinstated. So we're talking thousands of true, real accounts, not bot accounts, real, actual people will have their accounts back, which is going to be very interesting because Twitter is not the same place it was 2 years ago. It's a totally different ball game, and it's going to be interesting when the scales are even.
I was so put off 2 years ago. I just haven't really gone back. I've hated Twitter, and I kind of glanced here and there, but I haven't really been on it. So
it's so what's funny is that it's actually kind of entertaining.
Oh, really?
Because you have people who are kind of like tyrannical, and they're very upset. They're like, "Why don't you do things we told you to do?" He's like, "I'm the boss now. That's why." It's like a new sheriff's in town, and all of a sudden there's kind of it's been mending things. It's not perfect, but it's definitely a step in the right direction.
I wonder if he's gonna buy Facebook. Hey, wink, wink, clue, clue, Elon Musk.
Yeah, there you go. Well, I like the T-shirt that he got. I think it's like "Stay at Work." Or his new T-shirt. He got some merch coming out.
Oh, one of the things. One of the things I was mentioning, I actually tweeted to Elon directly. I said, I was like, do you want to know how to get to the young generation? Bring back Vine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
invite him to the show. That'd be fun. Hey, Elon, why don't you come on the show, yo?
So,
that would be amazing.
Are you guys familiar with Vine?
I know
No.
its existence, but that's it.
Okay, so Vine was a short video platform. So they used
Okay.
to do 5 to 10-second clips.
Okay, I think I do
So
vaguely remember that.
imagine and it was owned by Twitter until it was shut down because it was not considered a viable form of media. What is TikTok?
It's
a
just
similar
short
idea.
videos.
It's short clips, just like Vine was 10 years prior.
Mm.
So what you do is you encourage people, you bring back Vine, re-incentivize it, and then you have an active platform competing against TikTok.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
And it's more user-friendly to Gen Z and Gen Alpha. The younger generation will be able to use this much more efficiently than, millennials. Because so this is where my brain's going with this. We bring back Twitter, which means we can compete. Which means we can compete against other things. Vine will compete against TikTok, which means now you have a video streaming service on top of that.
Oh, that's really cool.
So I mean, you start opening up all these different fronts because this is a multi-front conflict.
Yeah, well, they're bringing the competition on one way or the other anyway.
Bingo.
I mean,
I'm sorry. I just had a blurb about that.
So we have a lot of things that have to do with communication, and there are certain types of individuals that would love to control how information goes in and out. And when you see the one screaming the loudest of how they disapprove of, everybody being able to say something and no longer it being an echo chamber, that's where you find out who the gatekeepers are and who the players are.
Mm-hmm. True, very true. And one of the few things that they're having really loud about is whenever you talk about the world population in some shape or form, whether it was the concept of climate change, whether it was the concept of what we do with food, and I mean, et cetera, et cetera. So one of the things that Sue and I were talking about prior was replenishment. Mainly the idea of what's called is the replenishment rate for Earth, right? Because in the news just the other day they were talking about how we just passed 8 billion people, right? And all the major media talking heads are talking about overpopulation. We're going to not have food or resources to deal with this amount of people. And then you go to an actual depiction of it, right? Imagine we have 8 billion people, right? And we have a 33 by 33 plot, a third of a mile, a third of an acre by a third of an acre, right?
Right.
And that's big enough for a single family home, right? Nothing too big, but it's just comfortable for most people.
Yeah.
Did you know you could do that and fit 8 billion people in the state of Texas?
Wow.
Just the state of Texas, nowhere else. Everything else is going to be completely empty. Just in the state of Texas.
So crazy.
So where is this overpopulation? I don't understand.
Right.
Fact.
Well, and there's farmers that I know personally in Idaho that are being paid by the government not to farm. This is straight up what the crap. Dude, there's so much land out there that's just dry. Why are they doing that? I mean, think about it, people. Why are they being paid not to farm? And then people are saying, there's a shortage of food. Well, let them farm then. There's the crisis fixed. Duh.
Yeah. I mean, here's a clue. Here's an absolute clue to find out if we are overpopulated or not. Is there such thing as a middle of nowhere? Is there such thing as out in the boondocks, as the expression says? If there's no such thing as out in the middle of nowhere, or when you drive out somewhere and there's this amount of woods or trees or lands or farms or whatever, and they say, "Hey, I'm out in the middle of nowhere," then we are not overpopulated. When we are overpopulated, there'll be no such thing as out in the middle of nowhere. There'll be houses from end to end. I mean, just talking about the United States. If we were overpopulated here in the United States, there'll be houses from end to end. There'll be no way that if your car breaks down, that you would have to walk for miles to even possibly get help.
Right.
If you have to be in that situation, then we are not overpopulated.
Well, and also there's here in Salt Lake, they're saying, oh, there's a water shortage. So if you go over a certain amount, then you're going to get a fine. But there's machines out there that condense the air into water. There is no, what the crap? We can make water. It's so easy.
There's also, you can also create desalination plants, and they can turn the ocean water into drinkable water.
Exactly. All you have to do is boil and distill it, and you can add minerals back. There's so
not
many
that hard.
things.
We have in fact, really what you could do, I mean, and I know this from camping, is if you run out of water, you can actually, I believe it's all you need is
piece of plastic.
Was that plastic wrap?
Yeah, plastic wrap and a pebble, and then just dig a hole.
Yeah, and basically what you're doing is you're basically collecting the condensation from the air, and it will drip, and you'll have water.
And you can also pee in the hole, and then put your cup on top of it, and then if you put your plastic, you put put dirt around the plastic, so it's still exposed in the middle, but around the edges to cover it, and then you drop a little pebble in the center, and that's where it condenses, and then it drips down into your cup, and so you can actually distill your pee and drink your pee sterile.
It works.
Oh yeah.
So
and you can do several of those little holes like that. Don't just do one, do several of them.
In fact, I checked, it's something like condensing is actually very common in deserts. They have condensers all over the place in many desert locations because they don't get they don't get sufficient water. And so they'll do it just to condense the air. And it seems to be working just fine. So as we were talking, so going over, continuing, we were talking about that is one of the things I was looking at was a ticker, and this ticker is on the website worldmeters.info, and in this website it has a current tally of how many people are currently on the planet. As we speak at this moment, we have 8,001,976,155 and counting. But here's the but. That number, that ones place, it looks like it's like Porky Pig, and it's going a bit up and down. And when you scroll down just a hair, it has today, right? The amount of births, the amount of deaths, the growth, then it has the total year. And what you're going to notice is that the death population, the total deaths is starting to rank up faster than the births. So, like, for example, at this current ticker, they're saying that we've had a growth of 60,279,560 people this year, but the amount of deaths, actually, that's together. So, births this year is just about 120.7 billion. Death is 60.4 billion. So we're about 50-50 at this point, which is, that's concerning.
It's scary.
So another thing that's down there is the growth rate. And if you look at the growth rate, I can give you the link for everybody if you're curious.
Well, and there's been a lot of infant mortalities from what I've heard as well. That
Yes.
there's usually not as many. Like I think it's like 21 is what it's been averaging per week or something now, and it used to be like that per year. I mean, it's not exact numbers, but it was something to that was really startling. That a lot of nurses and doctors were like, "Whoa, what's causing this?" You know,
Yeah.
I mean, we have our ideas. Yet again, we can't talk about. Anyway,
Can't talk about the reason. I'd just like to welcome Dr. Alex Bloom. Hello, little brother. And
Hello.
congratulations. Will you please
I'm so
tell us,
excited.
yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah,
we
look
did
at
it.
that.
The ring, I'm excited.
Yeah, show up the ring again. Yeah, look at that.
Bling,
That is
bling,
absolutely
girl.
awesome.
Bling,
Yeah, totally bling.
Yeah.
He is off. He is off
Aw.
the market, ladies and gentlemen.
Good to be. That's right. It's good to be back. Good to see you all. Thank
How's
you.
married
Welcome.
life? How
It's
is married
really
life?
good. I love married life.
Oh, I love it.
Everything and more than I imagined. So
Aw.
Yeah.
very happy.
How was your Thanksgiving?
You know, it was good. It was very different this year. We, since as many of you know, lost most of the house in the hurricane. So we've been kind of jumping from lily pad to lily pad with Airbnbs, and we're now staying in aptly a frog house. So we've named it
Pepe House.
Pepe House. That's right. And it's nice. It's cute. We're in downtown Sarasota, so we're just a few minutes from the main drag. And we went out to dinner this year, just the two of us for Thanksgiving, which was very bizarre, I must say, because I'm used to just going into, you know, my family's house every year for the big day. And it's okay, but you miss the traditions, you know, and there is nothing like home cooked meals. So
Yeah, definitely. So, you know, I don't know if you want to bring up that you do have a GoFundMe set up, you know.
yeah.
So you want to tell us about that?
Sure. So basically what happened in Hurricane Ian, we were not unscathed, unfortunately. And we had the intuition to fly back early for the storm because we were in Oregon, and rented an SUV, and the storm worsened, and we put as many of our prized possessions as we could in one car and booked it out of there right in time before the almost 2 miles an hour underneath the Category 5 hurricane hit. And our house, unfortunately, was the only house on our particular street that was affected because the grading of the house was lower. And so the storm drains backed up because the city didn't do their proper due diligence. And so the waters kept rising and rising and went in the house. And we had only about maybe 6 inches, but because of the heat and the humidity, everything just molded in a matter of 2 days.
I
And
bet.
we couldn't get back to the house because we were stuck in Orlando because the highways were, waterlogged. And by the time we got out, it was basically too late. So we lost the bathroom and the kitchen and 90% of our belongings, and most of the house is down to the studs. And so we've been fortunately staying with family or Airbnbs, and come January, we don't have a place to live. So we're going to figure something out. But in the meantime, we're trying to get a hold of contractors and trying to reconfigure things. And of course, all this happened just on the heels of getting married. So
Yeah, all that right before the wedding. No, so stressful.
yeah.
Yeah,
So we
yeah,
have
you guys definitely been tested.
yes.
Well, it's interesting the time that hit. I think wasn't that? Oh, was it 2 weeks ago, or was that a week ago? I'm trying to remember when that was. I guess that was 2 weeks ago, wasn't it?
Well, so Hurricane Ian was the end of September, and then we have a separate story because right before our wedding was another hurricane. And
yeah, I know. I've been through it.
I remember seeing all these
Yeah.
stories. Like,
Yeah,
what
I know, we saw some of that, and we saw some people walking at the beach at the hotel, and we were like, are they mad? You know?
right? Yeah.
And,
it was
you know,
pretty wild, but here's the power of visualization. I had put out on Facebook and elsewhere on social media, just, we all know visualization works, so let's put it into practice. And let's just visualizing a bubble around the wedding, and that we can have this ceremony that we've been planning for a year to be where it should be, which is outside. And long story short, we were able to make that happen. So I
Yeah, even
believe
though they predicted rain, we actually
Yeah.
visualized this
That's
nice sunny
right.
day, and everything worked out beautiful. The photos of sunset, everything worked
Yeah.
out wonderfully.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Sunset
It did.
wedding. It
so
was beautiful.
Yeah.
yeah. So if
All-
everybody is kind of wondering though, so we put up a GoFundMe. I think it was under Alex and Vicky Bloom or Alex Bloom.
Yeah, I'll
and
find the link, but I just wanted to show real quick of what
Yeah.
the actual sunset looks like. So this is Victoria's sister and her husband from the UK, but look at the sunset in the background.
So beautiful.
I
Yeah.
mean, that's what we were able to manifest.
Yeah.
So it was pretty incredible.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Some people
So
have to pay
anyway.
extra money for that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right?
And
Exactly.
then all-
That was-
and
that
all
was a
happened
free
on-
sunset.
on happenstance, because if I remember correctly, we were supposed to have the wedding at 3:33,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
because another wedding that was there, it was delayed, and so yeah,
And what time did it start, Alex?
5:55. Oh no, 4:44.
That's right. And we
that's
didn't even
the
plan
best
that.
one.
Right, and
You see?
444 is the protection that the universe and the spiritual guides are protecting you.
That's so
So you pay
awesome.
attention to your thoughts and your environment when you see this number.
Don't you love that?
4:40. It's that, and then we broke the human at 7:00.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it
when
went
I showed
black.
that, he loved it.
Yeah. Wasn't that crazy?
I was mentioning a little bit earlier, Alex, how when I was talking to you about this and how like giddy you were
I know.
when I showed you the photo of the photo screenshot.
Yeah. I'm gonna see if I can pull it up really quick because it was pretty trippy. And it was right here. I'm glad that you found that. So look at that.
Yeah.
This was
That's
right around
so-
the time we were getting married too. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, if anybody feels called, here's the GoFundMe. It's just Alex, Victoria, and Hurricane Relief. And we could, appreciate any donations because we're trying to get our lives on track and rocking and rolling, and we'll manifest it somehow. So we have a book in the wings with all of the stories and whatnot, just that we've been accruing so far. So it's fun. It's
Yeah.
crazy. It's a wild ride.
I'm so grateful that you guys are safe.
Thank you. Yeah, me too. At the end of the day, it's very stressful, but it's just stuff. It's the people that matter in your life, and everybody made it alive. And some people were kind of in worse positions than we were, or kind of had closer inches of, to death. And we're just lucky to be here. I've never been through, being from Oregon, any sort of like inclement weather to this degree. So it was definitely an eye-opening experience, to say the least.
Yeah, kind of like add that one to the books,
Yeah. Don't really want to go through another one, I'll tell you that. And anything more than like a tropical storm, I'm going to say sayonara and just leave the area for a little while. So the people in Florida, it's very interesting because unless you get really up there like what we had in September, people just kind of hunker down and they have what are called hurricane parties. And it's the most bizarre thing. And they just kind of get together with friends and drink and have a good time and whatnot. And the lights go out. And my dad has a contact up in FEMA and high up. And she was saying even before the storm, they were setting up morgues, pop-up morgues. And where she went, which was in Fort Myers, just outside of Fort Myers, which ended up being where the epicenter was, she would see people around where she was setting up. And she's like, you really should leave. Like the government's suggesting this for a reason. And they're just, it's like the Aesop's fable of the grasshopper and the ants,
All right.
and they all stayed. And it's just devastating. Like the amount of deaths from this is so unspeakable that the news won't report a true body count. It's that bad. So it was just, DeSantis called it the 500-year storm. And, it was just unbelievable in terms of its path. It came from the west of the state and ripped all the way through the state up to Orlando, which is where we ended up staying at our stepmom's house. And so it followed us, which is harrowing. And then it went back into the Atlantic. It reformed back into a hurricane because it had downgraded as it moved across the state, and then hit up all along the East Coast. South Carolina, North Carolina, went up inwards, and just an unbelievable storm. So.
Yeah, I would say it was very weird how the storm was playing out. So we were getting an inkling that it was controlled. They're like
felt
controlled artificially.
It felt like there was someone with a joystick and like wanting to make as much devastation as possible as it kind of moved its way across the country. So.
And yet the left was screaming like crazy, going, Hurricane Ian, you had one job, and it was showing pictures of Mar-a-Lago and all that. And I was like, whoa, guys, that was a little harsh.
That was harsh. Can you imagine if there was anyone else that they were making comment to, and the pushback and reaction that people would have? It's so bigoted or whatever. So.
Yeah. So we were discussing population. So do you want to chime in, about it? But we know that we're talking about the population and, the things that goes on with the people. We cannot mention anything about, the algae and the things, but we can talk about anything around there. So unfortunately, we're being censored very heavily. We are kind of no longer under the radar, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. Have you guys talked about the documentary yet?
No.
Okay. So do you want to say a few quick words about it?
Well, there is a documentary out, and it is actually, I don't know if I'm even allowed to say the title.
What's happening to people. Everyone is dying suddenly. If you think of past tense, died suddenly. It's really sad, but that's been happening with a lot of people.
And that's the name of the movie. You guys can look at that up on Rumble. But it does talk about why there is a population problem.
So I guess my 2 cents that I can add to this is aptly timed. Given a couple nights ago, I stumbled across something, and Victoria and I have both been called more recently as kind of we gear up for the next chapter for us. I mean, there's a lot of things spiritually that we plan on contributing as kind of soulmates and as two people who kind of are very spiritual and see kind of a clear-cut path moving forward of trying to contribute and give back. That part of a divine soulmate relationship is not just the bliss that can happen between the two people, but that they can use their powers to kind of synergistically combine and contribute back to the world. And so we've been meditating more, and we're eventually going to kind of launch our own kind of path in terms of how to model for other people, what a divine soulmate relationship can entail. And so I, in meditation the other night, was putting out an intention to try to find more things to combat everything that's going on, including the population factor that kind of we've been talking about. And so lo and behold, as of course, just a few hours later, I stumbled across a YouTube video, and it was called, I think Daily Motivation was the name of the channel. But the lecturer's name is Robert Gilbert, Dr. Robert Gilbert. And the particular video that I had watched is called Key Methods to Activate and Balance Egyptian Biogeometry.
Interesting.
And so he has been working extensively. He's ex-military, sounds very high up and very, very knowledgeable, extremely articulate. And he talks about sacred geometry and all these sorts of different offshoots. But this particular lecture kind of led me down this rabbit hole of learning about this concept that I never heard about before of biogeometry. Like, what in the world is that? And basically, his mentor, Ibrahim, had studied not necessarily through Rosicrucians or the ancient Egyptians and whatnot, but through his own path. I don't know exactly the details, but had been learning about just kind of the energy that the ancients used and how that was kind of the hallmark of this ancient culture, that they were extremely well versed, as we know some of the stats about just the Great Pyramid and some of the unbelievable things that had been like huge, like 48-ton bricks. And I've been there before, as I might have mentioned, and I plan on leading a tour there at some point once all of this kind of Rona stuff really dies down. And it's just unfathomable that barely even today can the technology scrape and put together what these people did, with supposedly, twigs and, cement circles and whatnot. I mean, it's just a joke. And so all of this was about energy manipulation and being able to tap into the different types of etheric energy that is out there, that we have kind of the physical world, of our five senses and things that can be tangibly measured and whatnot. Then we have kind of somewhat of the invisible, if you will, with the electromagnetic spectrum of anything between X-rays and Wi-Fi, and of course, visible light is within that spectrum. But what Robert talks about here is that there's a whole nother level that in modern society, for at least the past several hundred years, has completely ignored to measure, and that's the ethereal or kind of spiritual energy, if you will. And this is something that can also be measured. And so this is what this biogeometry is all about. And so he, as well as his mentor Ibrahim, have really felt called to share this because of the all-out assault that's been going on with, especially nowadays, I mean, not just with the ouchie, but with radiation, with Wi-Fi signals, with 5G, with, I mean, the list goes on that we could name. And so basically what you're learning through this is you're learning how to take back your power by understanding, first of all, positive energy versus negative energy in terms of how it interacts with your body. And to offer kind of a quick side note, they were mentioning, among many, many fascinating things, that the hieroglyphs in the pyramids and on all these sacred temples are specifically chosen not just to relay a message with the content of what the symbols were representing, but that the symbols themselves of where they were placed in the temple was grid-like in order to create this energetic like projection, if you will.
I've heard of
And
that.
have you heard that before? I had never heard that before. It blew my mind. And so people would go and stand, you know, at various parts of the temple, and then they'd go for what they were meant to go for, initiation or healing or whatever the case may be. And then however much time later, then people have come in and kind of chiseled off part of the hieroglyphs enough to then deactivate what the temples were meant to be used for. So that was kind of one factor. And then when they said that on all of these tombs where the kings would be buried and whatnot, that there would be like curses, so to speak,
Right.
of kind of people going in and getting sick. Of course, King Tut's the most famous one, that people went in and 9 out of 10 people, you know, ended up dying mysteriously very quickly afterwards. Well, they were saying, like with the Ankh, you know, that they would often hold, that the circular part of the Ankh was very life-giving, and they would often show that kind of being placed toward their face. And there's now technology that you can purchase where you can have like red lights that go up your nostril, and it has all these positive benefits as that light kind of hits your brain. And so this life energy that came from the Ankh, but the bottom side of the Ankh had what's called negative green, and all the colors of the spectrum have a particular signature frequency to them that offer, you know, healing or benefits and whatnot. But there's this invisible color, if you will, that's called negative green. And I'd never heard about this before. And he said this negative green comes out the bottom of the Ankh, and this can be detrimental. So it's like a weapon in terms of how you use it. And so these Ankhs would oftentimes be positioned at the door, the entrance to where the grave robbers might come in, so that if they come in past that entranceway, they're all bombarded with the negative green energy, and that's why they were getting sick. And he goes on to tell a story about how there was one person who was wearing a special ring that went in there, and why it was special was because of the symbol that was on the ring. And that person was spared or protected from this energy. And so he just goes on and on and on. I don't know. But anyway, my point behind all of this is all of this technology is available to be learned. And now, because of COVID, that they have taken the technology and put it all online for online courses and whatnot. So this Dr. Robert Gilbert runs these courses that you can attend and learn about all the biogeometry as it pertains to your house and the positioning of things, and this energy that can be used to, you know, benefit you. Very similar to Feng Shui. But apparently India has their own version of it. But what's nice about this is that when he was mentioning about like Feng Shui, for example, that was based in China, in the Far East. But the problem is with that, as well as the technology that was used in India, this is based on that region of the world. And so that region of the world with the position of certain things and whatnot is really meant for that. And you can have some benefit if you're in other parts of the world, especially in the Northern Hemisphere. But if you're not, then it can actually not necessarily be as beneficial because it's not positioned in the same way as all these ancients were using to map out the feng shui. Whereas this becomes universal because there's ways to measure where the energy is flowing and how to kind of circumvent that. That it can pertain in terms of what colors you wear. There's a whole spectrum in terms of what supplements or foods or things like he was saying, frankincense. It falls within the spectrum of the orange category. And orange has healing properties to it and whatnot. So certain mantras or words that you can say that the ancients used, clothing that you can wear, all of that, not even necessarily within the color of orange that we would think of, but within this frequency of orange. And so it was just absolutely mind-blowing. So the takeaway with all of this is that this becomes empowering for us. And this is the whole point of why they're getting this information out to the world, because this was locked up in secrets that the Masons and whatnot and all those in the upper echelon learn and know. But now it's time for the masses to do that, because that's what the awakening is all about. We are the second coming. And the more data we can use and the more empowered we're going to be to push back against this all-out assault on fertility and longevity and all of these sorts of different factors that are going on. So.
Well, it does make sense because the monks in Tibet and all these other places where they have monks in the Asian country, the clothes they wear is orange.
Yeah.
So it is. So I'm kind of wondering if they actually had this knowledge as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because a lot of this comes from Atlantis. And then when Atlantis fell, that there were ships where kind of the information in disparate ways was kind of shipped off. And so you'd see this in kind of Mayan cultures or Aztecs kind of in Central America. Then, of course, you'd see this in ancient Egypt and even parts of like the Far East, like in India, for example, that you'd have similar technology, similar information, similar drawings or sketchings, images and whatnot, that all of this was kind of translated all across the globe as kind of new seeds, if you will, for what would happen post-Atlantis. So now we're just kind of coming back to our roots, if you will.
One of the other cultures that I remember correctly had some connection with Atlantis would be the Basque culture of Europe.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mainly due to their physical characteristics, but also their culture, which was distinctly unique to anything else in Europe. They have a deeply spiritual, but not in like a Zen Buddhist type of spiritual, more of a communal type of spiritual. They believe in the community and the building, knowing to build up one to help the many.
Right.
And yeah,
it's interesting.
I don't know where I was kind of going with that, but
that's all right. Again, it's what it comes back to for me, especially at this stage, is we're all on our own journey, and a lot of us, when we woke up, we started learning about the political agenda. We started learning about kind of secret messages and whatnot that were kind of hidden in plain sight, if you will, kind of with certain companies or songs or, messages, themes, patterns, etc. And then you wake up to like the fact that these are all kind of mosaic pieces in a larger picture or puzzle pieces in a larger image that's being created, which is very clearly an agenda, that there is an agenda that those high up are trying to carry out. And so this kind of population conversation is part of that agenda.
Right.
And so once you understand that, like, this is real, this isn't bogus or fake or conspiracy theories or whatever label gets kind of thrown in that direction, and you move past the barrier that comes with kind of staying in this kind of protected bubble of being asleep, and you start waking up to the harsh truths, then it's like this wake-up call, this clarion call of like, okay, it's here. And with the Rona, that clearly has been like coming to the forefront of like things that use, like I saw a shirt fairly recently. It said something like, I need new theories to carry out because all of my prior ones have come to pass, you know, in terms of like the conspiratorial ones. And, or I saw another one that said, make 1984 a book again, you know, or fiction again. And, you know, so with all of this, it's like, yeah, if you have any sort of awareness, like, you know, the ancients used to say, like, for those who have eyes, let them see, right? For those who have ears, let them hear. It's like, if you're not asleep, then wake the hell up and like pay attention to what's going on. And as soon as you start to wake up, it's so obvious that you don't even need to encourage people to watch particular documentaries or, you know, anything along those lines. You just share a few seed thoughts and then have them turn on the news, and it's right there.
Yep.
So with all of that, now we're at least on my journey where I'm at is like, I'm tired of seeing, of putting my faith in a political movement or a hope, and then not having it pan out in a time frame that's often correlated with it. Now, what oftentimes I think creates a lot of disappointment for people is that the timeline is what we add to the narrative. That's not kind of part of the prescription. That the timeline is something that we don't have knowledge or access to, except maybe God, who knows? But every time it's like, oh, well, such and such is in control, or don't worry, or it's all going to happen, or they say soon, or within the next month, or next week, or next year, or the next election cycle, or whatever the case may be, it's still that carrot dangling on the hook, because all of us are now getting really burnt out and battle fatigue, because we're like, okay, but when? We're tired of saying, oh, but it's just right around the corner, or it's a false start, or what have you. And so this is where it's like, and what I feel is that is being done intentionally in order for us to get burnt out and stop this propagation of waiting for the knight on the white horse, that we are the ones we've been waiting for. And the work becomes one of going within. And as you do that kind of going within piece, that as a result of that, you start kind of realizing like what your individual next steps are. And if I want to share another video that I came across the other night, if I may, and it's on YouTube, and it's so the channel that I was referencing earlier, where I heard about biogeometry, is called Motivation Manifested, and Motivation Manifested. And so this next video is called The Fundamental Principle of Spiritual Law. And it's about 20 minutes long. That's the name of it. And it was fascinating. It's not necessarily new information, but the way that they put it together, it was Manly P. Hall video. It was just very well done. I mean, if you've ever listened to Manly, he's so well orchestrated in terms of how he puts all these pieces together.
Yeah, I really like his stuff.
Right. Isn't he awesome? Yeah. And so this video was kind of talking about the difference between the body or the flesh and the spirit. And within the body is a vehicle or a vessel. And it has what he was calling appetites, basically like temptations. That this is what the Bible was calling about, those of the flesh versus those of the spirit. And so when we give rise to the temptations of kind of fleshly, carnal awareness, there's nothing bad or wrong with that. It's not morally imperative to not do that, but it keeps us trapped or limited because we're not able to live up to our potential. And so he uses the term temptations, or appetites rather. So with these, it's the 7 deadly sins, right? Sloth, greed, lust, et cetera, et cetera. And so with that, what the invitation is, and those who are kind of in the initiation, if you will, and this is kind of essentially what what you want to call it, secret societies kind of are all about, especially the higher up you go, is to go through this death process where you die to just the flesh. And they oftentimes do this, like this is part of what the even in the Great Pyramid they were talking about with going in the sarcophagus and whatnot. And the cabal then has taken this and used this negatively, and that's kind of one of the precepts to this initiation, is that this information is so powerful that you must swear that you will not use it in any sort of like negative way, because it's so potent. And so once you die to the body and the flesh, knowing that it's a limitation and that you don't have to only identify with that part of you, that then you open yourself up to something higher from a spiritual perspective that can then flow through you And then that's how you're going to live your divine destiny or your highest potential. Your best self is in the psychology world they're calling it now.
Right.
And just the way that he articulated it just clicked something into place that if I heard it the way I'm summarizing, it's like, yeah, okay, yeah, I know that. It's not new information. And I had a dream that night. And this was 2 nights ago. I think I shared it with Sue with you. And the dream was because I was listening to Mozart when I was asleep, just kind of during my night's rest. And that might have been what caused the dream. You know, I have no idea if this is true, but what the dream was telling me is that Mozart and Da Vinci and Beethoven and all of these greats, famous artists of the world and et cetera, that all of these folks who have been part of this kind of brotherhood, if you will, have basically been taught this information that we're discussing right now, that all of us can live our potential when we die to just doing what's only based on the body, and we can transcend beyond that. And that this is the Christ consciousness, if you will. And so when that happens, then you allow the data from that higher realm to then flow through you, and you do things that are like beyond magical. And then the next part of the dream, which is kind of fascinating, was that the downloads from Mozart in particular in his compositions of his classical music were light codes that were given to him by intelligence elsewhere, aliens or what have you. And that he was just translating that through the musical instruments of the time, so that those who listen to it can kind of have a transcendent experience. Not necessarily like activate their DNA per se, but like be out of their carnal body for even just a little while. Kind of like what we have now with modern day entertainment, where we suspend disbelief and we kind of go into that other dreamy realm. And that's what television does. But television, they use that for us to go into this other dimension where we're in that alpha state and we're out of kind of everyday beta waking consciousness. But then that's where they implant like the negative aspects, you know, the NLP and frequency ranges and whatnot. You can go on to the patent office and see how from televisions that there is frequency technology that can negatively impact the nervous system, for example. So, you know, with all of that, I think the biggest factor here is for us to kind of tap into that idea for ourselves. And meditation is not the only way, but it's a powerful way for us to move beyond the basics of just this body that we were given. And we can open ourselves up to something larger than that. And that's when the real insights, miracles, and whatnot can occur in our life.
I love that because it's something I've been experiencing a lot lately. Just, I'm really a good manifester, and I'm very into astrology, especially sidereal astrology, because of how accurate it is. It's very, very interesting how just the alignment and energies of planets. And so I just watch, and also like I'm a Chinese fire dragon. That's my that sign. And so I look at those traits as well. And like right now, the dragons are having a lot of potential for good luck and abundance and flow. And so I put those energies together. And even though I didn't get one of the jobs that I was really wanting to, other opportunities opened up, and I'm actually making $3 or $4, depending on the job, more than what I would have been making freelancing.
There you go.
And I mean, I'm doing physical labor. I'm actually scooping dog poop, and I'm doing like we were cleaning and doing pruning and stuff, landscaping at some businesses and homes. But I'm like, you know what? I'm out in the sunshine in the winter. It's like 30 degrees. And I feel great. I'm like loving it and getting some physical exercise and making money. And I'm like, you know, if I have to work a job, this is awesome. I like this.
You know, back in college, my extended family, my grandparents and whatnot, they own a garbage company. So in the summers, I would work on the trucks and I was a garbage man. And even though it's this kind of low blue collar job, it was one of the happiest times of my life when I would just go there at the end of the day, stinking like hog heaven. But I was out in nature, you know, and I was just kind of, I don't know, doing things that the day experience became my meditation, kind of just talking to the public and knowing that I was contributing a service to the general population, and really found it more satisfactory than I would have ever imagined.
That's so
I-
cool.
I actually have a similar situation. Um, one of the things I found out was probably the most therapeutic work I've ever did was actually, I currently work for a different supermarket, but prior to that, I worked for an another company, and there, one of the things I did was I was the one that was dealing with the carriages outside. I would corral them, bring them inside, stuff like that. And generally you think, oh, that's such a menial job. It's just repetitive, which it is repetitive. But I was outside the entire time. Through the rain, through the snow, through the heat, and this is about 6-7 years ago when I was doing that, and I was doing it for years prior to that. But during that time, I was, in college, and I was very heavily depressed. And the reason why I was heavily depressed, not just because you're in that awkward college phase of life, you have no idea what you're trying to do, but I was also dealing with a serious withdrawal. Because I was dealing with, I was dealing with medication for my attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, where they generally are methamphetamines. And stupid me or wise me or whatever you want to call me, nickname me, I quit those things as soon as I could, as I reached the age of maturity. I made my own decisions. I didn't want to be on it. I was on it since I was 6 years old. And I was like, I'm done. Well, that caused a massive withdrawal. But while I was pushing carts and I was dealing with all those horrible things, I found the most, like, the thing that cleared my head out when I was pushing carts. And it was the cold autumn air. Just having the cold autumn air clears your head out like nothing else. It's like Drano for the brain. So I'd be outside, I'd be in a funk from like life and work and friends and stuff like that. I started working outside, and then I would work in the evening, so I would be there for like 4 o'clock, and I'd be there till like 9 p.m. And by the time I saw the sun go down and the air starting getting a little crispy, all of a sudden I was able to take a nice deep breath, and I was just able to reflect from the day while I was doing my work. I got everything done, but it was just such a therapeutic thing to just really just your body, your arms and legs were on autopilot the entire time, while your mind was physically like, okay, let's defrag. So I completely understand when it I mean, I don't get that feeling too much anymore because I'm inside all day. So you deal with all the different people and stuff like that, which is totally different experience.
Yeah,
Nature is
definitely
healing.
grounding. Yeah, I was going to say wavelength of that. Grounding is something that we do need to do daily. And a lot of times we don't get out and ground even just for a few minutes because the excuse is, well, here we are in the middle of winter, and in some parts of the state, I'm in St. Louis, Missouri, it's cold out there. We're not necessarily going to hit the grass barefoot. Or it's rainy and so forth. So, by the way, you guys can get grounding flip-flops. They do sell them on Amazon. It's made the same way the grounding mats are. So if you want to do that, that help. Or there's different types of sandals and shoes. You can find grounding shoes. But yeah, it's, you really don't have too much of an excuse, but we make excuses. And unfortunately for me, I'm guilty of that. I make excuses why I don't go out sometimes, and I could just, ground and shield and meditate. And just sometimes even just that is enough to kind of lift you up and put you in a different state and help you carry on your day. But what I'm getting at is I absolutely think that meditation, especially, it's not just so much as sitting crisscross applesauce and just trying to put your mind at somewhere else. Some people can't do that. Sometimes people it's easier to meditate when they do something where they can move the way of the motion of their thinking into another state. And to doing mundane jobs is one of them, like washing dishes. It really doesn't take any brain cells to wash dishes. So as you're washing the dishes, you can allow your mind to be in a different state. So it allows you to be open to receiving any information or downloads.
Yep. Washing dishes, being in the shower, driving, those are the top three for me, that you go kind of into that altered state. And I love what we're saying here about nature, because when you go to Egypt, you learn that the ancient gods were not referred to as gods. That comes from the word Greek. But the word in Egypt was neters, Neters, or really NTR is kind of how it was spelled out. And then Greeks came along, and that's where they turned that NTR into the word nature. But neters was where you have kind of the depictions of all of these gods, but they weren't gods. They were the embodiment of nature in its various aspects. So wind and water and bounty and, all of these, animals and whatnot. And so being in nature is so therapeutic for most of us. And the research on this from a psychological perspective is continuing to just explode as more is done, because there are so many benefits. Back even to geometry, they're now saying that, like, visually for the eye, seeing shapes that are found in nature only have a healing effect and can manage stress and all of these different, like, physiological responses compared to walking in a city, because the city shapes around you are all man-made with 90-degree angles and whatnot. And the diversity that comes from the different shapes and sizes and whatnot that can only be replicated in nature has some pretty incredible effects. So it's fascinating to see kind of this furthering of this linkage between science and spirituality.
Well, they got that in the native Indian world. I mean, I believe Maria can confirm, and that's why they talk about the energies, and they talk about like different animals and things. Well, that's why they call your spirit guides, or they talk about the energy in a rock. They talk about the energy in a tree. They talk about the energy in the skies and stuff. And to honor the energy, a lot of times that you name your kid after these honored energies, and that's why we have these types of what they call Indian names. They're honoring that particular type of energy. Yeah, I have that right, Amaria?
A lot of us feel guided by nature. That's true. Like this year, I feel like the sparrowhawk energy is guiding me, because on one of my routes, I found a bird that had died, and so I basically am mummifying different parts of it traditionally. And there's other different hawks and birds of prey that I've found feathers for, that it's at interesting times. Like there's red-tailed hawk that I had 3 years in a row. I had a couple of feathers that had been either given to me or I just found outside of my door, literally, when I was in Idaho. And so I look up what's the animal. And for instance, sparrowhawk this year. Sparrowhawks they're kind of small. It's actually smaller than most chickens. And this little guy, beautiful little bird, I could just feel so much energy from it and gratitude, just learning that the sparrowhawk is one that if you corner that bird, it's going to shred you. And the talons on that fucker, oh my God, they're so intense. And so it just makes me think of what can I do to apply myself in my life to be like the sparrowhawk right now, until another animal comes along. And I feel like that is what my guides are saying. Okay, this is the animal you're learning from this year. And it's interesting because for me, it's been the birds of prey since I did my ayahuasca journey. And I had the vision of the shaman or the medicine man, whatever people want to call it. I know a lot of natives don't like to say shaman. But I guess it's better understood with other cultures, just to kind of be fair with different cultures. But he had kind of a wolf skin on his head and reached out and took my hand, and I was flying. And when I looked, I had wings. And so I went down and I found a body of water, and I was a young bald eagle. And so Stillwater is one of my warrior names that I had been given prior with another journey that I'd been on. And they said that was my warrior name. This time he says, Spirit Eagle. You have the spirit of the eagle. You go very high with your energies, with your love, and I'm sharing this just to kind of give an understanding to tie it in. It's very sacred for me. But I really took very seriously the energy of the eagle, and it lasted for about 10 years. And then that's when I came into the red-tailed hawk for the past few years, and now the spirit hawk. So I'm like, this is just, I feel so honored that that's come across my path. So if you find something, maybe you see deer often, that means, and they cross your path, that means you're on the right journey. And so think about, what animals do you see? And then go look it up. What does that animal energy mean, and how can I apply it in my life? And usually that's how our guides can talk with us, whether through numbers, through feelings, energies, animal energy. It's actually very, very common in different native cultures to follow nature, follow the animals.
And that's what they want. They want you to, you know, that we should actually follow whatever energies and guides, you know, suggest for us to follow, because we don't need this institution of church, if you will, where we would need a priest, where we need a middleman to confess, where we need, you know, everything that the bad guys have done has made it so so that we have given the idea that we need someone else to, you know, push us in whatever direction that we need in order to live a life. And that's not how it works. How it works is that we need ourselves, and that is the biggest enemy. That they absolutely don't want us to look at ourselves and say, we need our own self, that me, myself, and I, we need ourselves. We need our own energy, and we can grow our own energy to expand for others. You know, so if that
Being
makes any
that light
sense.
for the world.
Exactly. But,
That's
you know,
so beautifully put,
and
too.
so, yeah. So, you know, the church and institutions has said, you need this person. The government has said, you need this person. You know, they just need of somebody else to do it for you. So the lesson here I'm trying to take for this is just that we have to look at ourselves for everything, you know, and that's
Absolutely.
why, you know, there was a thing that I've seen online where it says, you can grow your own food, you can, you know, create your own things, you can create your own house, you can create your own home. You don't need them, and that is the biggest threat that they don't want to see, is for you to be completely independent and not need them. So, you know, look in yourself, because we all have everything. We have our guides, we have our higher self, we have our ancestors. They all have the lesson. And believe it or not, the knowledge is absolutely everywhere. It's in the wind, it's in the air, and it's in the water, it's in all the elements. Believe it or not, all the knowledge is in all of the elements. They've been there longer than we have. The expression older than dirt, you know? So it's all there. And we just look to that instead.
Thank you. I love that.
That was a great story, Maria. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you. I just felt like sometimes it's okay to share, and just felt like it. Yeah, thank you guys. This has been very uplifting show. I'm glad that we're back together again. I think that
Yeah.
Me too.
a very positive force. And I've been thinking about the show sometimes, because I know we do things a little differently than some, and we may not have as big of an audience every day as some, but those that we touch, it's just like being on that beach with the starfish washing up, and you pick one up and you throw it back in, and another person comes along and says, well, what'd you do that for? Well, because why not? I just saved it, didn't I? Yeah, but look at all the other 100,000 plus more. What does it mean to them? I don't know. but it meant a lot to that one.
Mhm.
So every soul that we can touch is something huge. Just like, what's been going on? Think, ask questions. How come people have been getting sicker and dying more frequently? How come they died suddenly? Just like that documentary, that's where you're going to get a lot of answers and solid truth. They actually show things on there that the CDC and the FDA are actually publishing. And that's a fact. There's a lot of things on there. Ask some questions. I know there's things we can't say on here, but I feel good at least that we are a means of getting information out to those that may not hear it and help them to go forward to finding those truths.
Never underestimate the power of passing information on. If it reaches one person, it can always reach another. And you might also want to, I want to add actually to the idea that why death? Why the negativity? Why not life? Why not happiness? Why is it separation? Why is it despair? Why is it not unity? Why is it not community? So these are the things that we want to think about.
Great questions, Sue. Thank you so much. Alex, did you have anything else, Spielman or Bloom, either one of you, that you wanted to add before we signed out tonight?
I don't. Just always gracious to come on whenever I can make it. And good to see you all and be part of this collective journey that we're going on and the vibe of the show. And we have good things to talk about. And just like that starfish, because time is an illusion, you never know who in the future might stumble across an episode or decide to kind of tune in or subscribe or whatnot. Could be even years from now, years from this recording that we have going on live. So hello from the past, and
for liking and sharing.
yeah. And you never know, right? I mean, all it takes is that one person to be like, wow, this is good stuff, and then boom, it could go viral. And if it never does, it doesn't really matter either way. So we're doing what we all feel called to do, as we collectively with us here have kind of opened ourselves up and decided, wow, there's something between us all that we want to pursue. So we've allowed, like I was saying earlier, that kind of spirit to kind of flow through us, to have luckily with technology using that for the better instead of for the worse, to where we can get this message out to the ethers, if you will. So
I love that.
I think.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Alex Spielman. Thank you so much, Alex Bloom. Thank you so much, Amaria. And thank you so much, Katie, for, letting us be able to do this, And hopefully we'll continue to keep doing this for as long as we can.
If I may, before we sign out.
Absolutely.
I just wanted to say, give a quote. I mentioned this quote in the past, but I think as we're talking about time and relativity and population and stuff like that, and kind of springboard off of what Bloom was just mentioning, the quote goes, "Eternity lies ahead of us and behind. Have you drunk your fill?" Which, and that's what's basically it. The future has not been determined. The past is what we have to learn from, but here we are in the present, right?
That's why it's called a gift. Present.
Present. Yes, exactly. The reason why it's called the present, because it's always a gift that we have.
Yeah.
All right. And we can't worry about the past and we can't worry about the future until we realize that we are here in the now, in now time, now space.
Yep.
It won't matter what we do 10, 15, 20, 100 years from now. If we don't deal with this right now in the present, we won't give ourselves a course or direction for how we want to sail our ships.
Yeah, and the past is actually was designed to be a lesson. We look at it to use it to draw it into the present so that we can figure out what we can do in the future. I mean, it's just that, but we need to march forward as far as we can. And it's all simultaneously anyway. But still, let's just keep marching on. We're soldiers.
Heck yeah, girlfriend.
Whoa, we are soldiers.
There you go.
Awesome.
I want to do a little shout out. Thank you so much to our listeners. Thank you also to C4OC Radio Network and Rev Radio Las Vegas. We love you guys. Thanks so much, Dr. Bloom, Alex Spielman, Sue. We love you guys. Till next time.
All right. Lots of love, everyone.
Lots of love.
Bye.
Night night.